3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it. Ooh, well, welcome along, guys, to Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan. As always, I'm going to be joined by a fantastic guest. Tonight is one of the best up-and-coming rising stars on the circuit. So we're having a real treat tonight. I'm sure that you will enjoy this guy's company and what he has to say. So how's your day been? Let me know. Do say hello in the comments box. Tasha is going to try to do some commenting, I think, but COVID has really hit her hard this last week. Don't know what's the matter with her. When I had it, I just went to sleep for 14 hours a day. But, you know, maybe it's a gender thing. I don't know. Yeah, how was your Christmas? Let us know how that worked out for you. Are you kind of still in the kind of festive spirit? Have you taken your tree down? Did you put a tree up? Just anything you want to chat about, really, do let me know. And lots of the people that are out there, do pop your comments in the box. Let us know that you're there. Quick hello to Barry Allen. Good evening. And Robert Van Buren. Thanks for joining us, guys. I hope that you enjoy the next hour. So, as you all know, if you listen to me regularly, I try to get the best comedians on the planet to come and talk to me every week. And I decide who's the best because I don't have any shame in telling you these guys are good. I like people who are interesting, who bring something. So they may not be everyone's cup of tea, but comedy is very subjective. So always bear that in mind, that something that you like, somebody else doesn't like. But, you know, my opinion counts. I'm a dad, so I'm used to getting my own way. Tonight's comedian, I've known him for a few years now. He's a lovely man, and he's someone that I genuinely think that I would be friends with were he living closer to me. I definitely would go and borrow stuff from him because of his heritage. He's got connections. If I want to borrow things, I've got no difficulty in realizing that. Ben calls himself an accidental comic, which is quite interesting because that was a phrase that I have often used to describe myself. I never had a desire to do comedy. I was quite happy in my day job with my kids. And then I just did the gigging for a little while in the hope that it would lead to something else. Ben's reasons obviously slightly different. But what's interesting about him, though, is that he has really stormed New Act competitions across the country over a number of years and has been so successful that he's actually managed to get cloned, which is something that I hope we'll talk about in a little while. So without further ado, please do give a warm Reading the Signs welcome to the very lovely Benjamin Bollo. There you go. How's that for an introduction, bruv?
Look, that is fantastic. You are a great personality. I have to say, I've been meaning to want to come to your show, but I've been waiting patiently. The president said, just invite yourself and invade the show. But you know, you and I go a long way, even though I don't know you personally, but we've met at gigs. But I feel your energy and your vibe and your personality. So I hope you won't be flattered by the fact that not only do I respect what you do, I see you as a wonderful human being, and I'm attracted to wonderful. I'm attracted to wonderful human beings in the comedy industry. Actually, it's one of my weaknesses.
Well, let's just leave it there. Good night. Thanks for our relationship just peaked. How was your Christmas? How does Christmas work for you?
Christmas was fun, but Christmas was also a bit stressful. And when I say stressful, I have a very large family, and I wanted to see them all, but it wasn't possible.
Okay.
Not going to go into the details of it, but it was, it was fantastic. I'm sure you know what it's like trying to bring. I have come from a very large family, and most of us were able to see each other, but it was good.
Okay, I don't know if you caught the tail end of that introduction, but I managed to pick up COVID on the 14th of December. So my Christmas involved just being in isolation, being on the couch for 14 hours a day, which is very difficult for me because I don't do lying around very well.
Yeah. Are you
But,
sure it wasn't? Are you sure it wasn't the fact that you didn't want to see certain family members, so you pretended that you had COVID?
Mate, I'm very. I tell you what, people talk about what is success, and I'm very successful because I only talk to people I like. I very, very rarely come into contact with anyone that I don't get on with. I just don't. I just don't have them in my life. I'm very blunt. Tasha describes me as Rain Man because my social skills are: if I like you, I love you. If I don't, I will walk past you. And I've never. So my parents are gone. My siblings, I don't really have a relationship with. So Christmas for me, normally we go away and was due to be having a month in the Caribbean working for P&O, but COVID have other ideas.
Yeah, I would say to you, because I'm a spiritual person, my view is that there is always a reason for everything, and the fact that you caught it and you went where you were supposed to be, there is a reason. There is a reason.
Okay.
So I'd say thank you, stars.
I will. If you could tell Santander that, I'll go. There's a reason I don't have the mortgage this month. It's but that's good. Have you been gigging much in December?
I haven't been gigging much, but what's really been really interesting, and it's probably stuff I wish I did earlier on in my career, this December was more about quality rather than quantity. So so the gigs that I did were really quality gigs. The last one was with Comedy Club, and it was just brilliant, as my alter ego, President Obonjo. I really enjoyed it. Long journey. I was so excited. I didn't read the sign at the car park to say closing at 9:00. By the time I finished the gig, I had to spend the night at Exeter, or they call it Sexeter, whatever it's called. Exeter, yeah.
That's a trek, mate.
Yeah, it was a trek, and one of many reasons why at times I'm on Facebook. Someone wrote and said they were looking for someone to replace them, and I jumped at it and off the curb said, "Come and do it." So
okay, and they're good people to get in with if you want to progress. For people who aren't in the industry, there are a couple of big gigs that you've got to get in with, and then that then gives you the credibility to get the other gigs. So, but tell us, when you was a kid, were you brought up here or in Nigeria?
Oh, so it's quite likely now that anything I say, some of it is going to be in my new show called "I'm Not President Obonjo," because I have to explain I've been performing as a character comedian for the past 12 years, and I've risen to the challenge because people keep asking me, when are you going to do straight stand-up? You're not doing straight stand-up. And I never knew that doing character comedy made me come across as gay, but I never knew that there was a sexuality thing because it said straight stand-up. I've always thought I was doing straight stand-up.
Straight.
And then all of a sudden, it's, you're doing character comedy, you're hiding behind the uniform. So to answer your question, I was born in Liverpool.
Oh, okay. You've lost the accent. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I've lost the accent. I've lost the accent. So I was born in Liverpool, and then I went back at the age of 5. I had no choice. My father just, I just found myself in Nigeria after spending 5 years. I have no recollection of Liverpool, no recollection whatsoever. So 5 years in Liverpool, then arrived in Nigeria, and then came back at the age of 19 back to England in 1985.
Wow. What made you decide to come back?
A couple of things. My mom just really thought that because I was very playful. I very playful as a child, and she just thought, "Look, I don't think this guy's future is in Nigeria. I think I need to get him out of Nigeria, and let him have some sanity in England." I was really, really playful when I was in Nigeria. I had no focus whatsoever. It was crazy. So England kept me sane because I just enjoyed life. I had no focus when I was in Nigeria, so I came back.
Was there was it difficult to go to Nigeria at 5 then? Was there a culture shock, or were you too young to have had your behaviours set?
What I do remember is this: that there's a photo of me on the ship from Liverpool to Lagos.
It took you by ship. That must have
Yeah,
took 5 years.
I don't know how long it took, but I know I knew I was seasick. But also, what I do remember is there's a picture of me in a hat, and apparently, I love the Beatles, so my father dressed me up in a Beatles outfit.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Wow.
And then arriving in Nigeria
Oh
with all
gosh.
my uncles and aunties,
Yeah.
they probably just thought I was an alien. They just thought, who? So
This
the
one.
culture shock was more for them rather than for
Yeah.
me. If you get my drift.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was more like, well, who's this? You know?
Did you have
And
a little Scouse accent when you got there? Were you like, all right,
yeah,
there,
I did.
all right, there, Auntie. How's it going?
My understanding is that I did, but I soon lost it immediately because I just have no recollection of, apart from the fact that yes, it's on my birth certificate and I have pictures of when I was in Liverpool, but just like a blank, just really blank.
And then, so when you was a kid, was you funny? Were you known as a funny guy or just happy?
My real father, because some people think that my father is the late Idi Amin Dada. That's another story entirely.
Okay.
Yeah, but my real father definitely saw me as someone really funny. And this was what was really interesting about coming into the comedy industry. When I started meeting reviewers or people making comments about my brand of comedy, I always felt, but hello, my father always told me I was funny. He knew, he spotted it straight from, he would be driving from, let's say, how best to describe it, leaving London to go to Brighton. He'll want to take me along because he found me funny. He found the fact that I wanted to interact with him, crack jokes with him. So yeah, he was the first person to tell me I was funny. Not any reviewer. He was the first reviewer to tell me I was funny. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about other kids in school? Were you a good kid? Were you in trouble, or did you?
I wasn't in trouble. I was a peacemaker, but I probably was. For me, and I think that shows in my comedy. I always wanted to stand out, not intentionally. I just felt psychologically that in order for me to create an impact in the world, I always have to be different. If that makes sense. I
Yeah.
never wanted to be part of the crowd. I always stood out. They always wanted to be around me because I was playful, but I knew I was different because I didn't want to do all the things that they wanted to do. I just wanted to be on my own, and I think that's where that creativity has come from. So I wasn't I didn't get into trouble. I was probably more peaceful than anything else. My parents went through a divorce as well, so I think that also
Okay.
affected me. Not necessarily affected me, but I think it was something that I recognized that I had to have my emotional resilience at a very early age, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That emotional independence was key for me at a very early age.
It's interesting for me because you're like the ideal template for a comedian, right? Because
Yeah.
Scousers, they're just funny. I don't care if that's a stereotype. There's normally humour. In fact, I've often done gigs in Liverpool and thought they don't actually need a comedian. They're just having a laugh themselves.
It's
And
interesting. It's interesting you say that because I went to Liverpool for a gig for someone called Che Bunny.
Mhm.
It was the Black Alternative Showcase.
Yeah.
And I remember being picked up from the station and I met this taxi driver and he just went on about how everyone in Liverpool is a comedian.
Yep.
And when I told him I was born in Liverpool, he said he could tell that I was born in Liverpool, even though I lost the accent. They just found people are just naturally funny.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it all happened. That's where it was created. Even before I knew what stand-up comedy was, it was already in me. I was born.
That banter.
Yeah, that banter, that playfulness, that you're absolutely right.
So that's stereotype number one. Tick. Stereotype number two: Nigerians, mate. You guys are African Irish. I've got many Nigerian friends, and laughter is very, very important culturally, right?
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of respect and there's a lot of hierarchy, but laughter, there's always one of my funniest football matches I've ever seen in my life was when Nigeria played Ghana, and I watched it with maybe 40 or 50 Nigerians and Ghanaians, and the abuse they were digging out to each other.
Yeah, it's banter. It's banter.
And I'm the comedian, and they're like, "Hey, where's the funny guy going to speak?" I'm like, "Funny guy don't need to say nothing, mate." It's like that goal's offside because someone bribed a chicken. It's like, what? But so you're from this dynamic family, right? You get this dynamic family going. You've been taken from England into another society where you've suddenly got to learn social skills, or you're going to get your ass whipped. And then you go through the thing like that. Did you want to be a comedian then when you were a kid? Was it something that you thought of?
I never ever gave it any thought until probably when I arrived in England, actually, at the age of 20, probably 23, 24. But because I was never ever supported, my parents would never have allowed me, even though I'd left the country, would have allowed me to want to be a comedian, because it's not something that you'd expect a Nigerian to do at the time. It's either you've got to be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. My father was an engineer. So for me to say to him that, oh, I want to be a comedian, there's no way he would have accepted it. I went to one of the very good secondary schools called Government College Ibadan at the time. I'd say it's the equivalent of Eton or King's College in London. And people who graduated from that school were either engineers, doctors, lawyers. The great Professor Wole Soyinka is from Government College Ibadan, just to give you an idea of the sort of people who went to that school. So there's no way he would have accepted me being a comedian as a profession, but he knew I was naturally funny. But I don't think he saw me as a comedian. He just saw me as a jester, a clown.
A jester.
A clown of the past.
A joker.
Yeah, joker. Yeah, exactly.
And so what job did you do when you first came to England?
Oh, Ben, I did quite a lot of jobs, man. I arrived here. The first area I lived was in Hackney.
Wow.
Hackney.
Whereabouts in Hackney was you?
Mayor Street.
Cool.
Mayor Street in Hackney. And
I was brought up at Hackney Downs Park.
Okay. So Mayor Street, I stayed with an auntie and then ended up in a tower block. Holston Point, that's what it was called. It's been demolished now. And yeah.
Was that Hackney Wick or somewhere?
Yeah, somewhere around Hackney Week. It's been demolished because it was full of cockroaches and all that stuff.
I think I went, right, I think when they blew it up, I think I went to watch. And then about 7 years ago, I met the woman who blew it up. And it was really bizarre. I was at this conference and people before me, they were called AR Demolition. Yeah. And they had this presentation about how to blow up tower blocks. And I was like, I used to live there.
You see,
I was in the park.
When I arrived and I started living in Holston Point in Hackney, wow. The first thing I did was, in those days, they didn't have neighborhood watch, but Nigerians are very friendly and hospitable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we had probably about 6 people on the floor. So I cooked some jollof rice and I left it in the front of their houses because I wanted to be friendly.
Yeah.
But hello, welcome to Britain. So they ate the jollof rice, greeted me once or twice, and that's it. That was that was the end of it.
Yeah, that's that sounds about right. I once, when our neighbours moved in, I went and said, "Look, we live over there. If you want to come and have coffee while you get your stuff moved or whatever, or if you're stuck for a bottle opener, come, give me a shout." And the guy went, "We won't be doing that, thank you."
Yeah.
And then about a year later, I was at a barbecue, and he was at this barbecue, and now the guy whose house it was, he said, "What did you do to him? He thinks you're really weird and aggressive." I'm like, "What?" Apparently, when he moved in, I knocked on his door and said, "Come over to my house and have a cup of tea, and I've got a bottle opener." I'm like, really? So there is that. And again, for Irish people, me and Tasha were talking about this yesterday. When I was a kid, our front door didn't have a lock on it. There's people coming in and out all the time. And from all nations, and I did a Facebook post the other day about this very thing about you'd come into my kitchen, you wouldn't know what was going on there.
Yeah.
And then because the church was basically Irish, Jamaican and Nigerian, you could be eating jollof rice or gizzards, rice and peas and boiled bacon and cabbage. You would not know.
Yeah, you asked me the question about how I made that transition. I have to say to you, when I came back, because I'd spent well over 15 years in Nigeria, we're just friendly. We talk to strangers. We talk to people. We invite people into our houses. I found England really, really cold.
Yeah.
Really, no, I'm not talking about the weather, just in terms of
Just the people.
yeah, just the people, just really, really cold. And it took me a while because at one point I relocated I went to the States just to get a sense of what it was like in the States. And I preferred the States to England at the time because, you'll meet people in the States. Hi, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And you the networking was great. But I just thought, I can't be, I've got to be myself. And myself is, I know I have a very outward personality. I talk to everybody until you convince me otherwise. That transition was a bit tough, was really, really tough.
It's just a quick shout out to Steve Troop and Kevin Beck Harrison. Thanks for coming along tonight, guys. This is Ben Bollo, who's a top comedian. He'll be all over the telly next year, or he's already over the telly. If you like watching people ripping off another man's work. But anyway, we get onto that in a little while. It's interesting for me because anytime I've met Nigerians, there's like a pride, and I think same with people from the Cameroon and Nigeria. And I think Irish people I call us the parents of the Caribbean because that's where the kind of mix came from. And there does seem to be this sense of family, community, revolves around food and partying. And so when I went into comedy, I'm sure you had the same problem. I just thought everyone was funny. Well, they're all comedians. They're bound to be funny and sociable and nice people. How wrong was I? So how difficult was it for you then to you talk about your neighbours being cold. How were you received by other comedians when you started?
Look, so that's why I call myself an accidental comic. It wasn't planned in any shape or form. It started when I went to a Nigerian wedding, and the MC, and I don't know if you've been to Nigerian weddings, they have receptions, and there was someone who basically the MC show on that day, and that friend of mine who was getting married said, "Oh, I know you can pull this off. Can you just fill in for me?" And I went in and I did it, but I was just being myself, just literally being myself in front of 300 people. And at the end of the show, people came to me and said, "Oh, wow, you held it on, blah, 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 blah." And I met someone who said, "Oh, I've never met a funny Nigerian MC. Would you consider stand-up comedy?" And I just thought, what do you mean by stand-up comedy? Because I had no idea. I had honestly had no idea what he was talking about. And he said, "Oh, I'll invite you to the Comedy Store." And I went to the Comedy Store and I arrived there. I saw all these people talking about themselves. And I just thought, wow, I can do this. They're just talking. They're just talking, John. They're just talking. They're just talking about their lives. I went on the Comedy Store. I did the gong. I lasted 48 seconds. Wow. And then, and for one reason or the other, I wasn't prepared to talk about, because when I went there, I saw so many comics, and I just thought, and this is just my psychic, I just thought, I need to talk about something fictional. I need to create something different that stands out. People might not get it. People might say it's mental, but that's where my brain is coming from. That's where my mindset was coming from. That if I wanted to make an impact, I needed to create something different. I didn't want to just go on stage and, I'm from Nigeria. I'd seen Gina Yashere at the time, great comic. So I wanted to create something totally different. I never knew a couple of years later that people would say, that's really mental and confusing. But that's the way it was. However, I went in blindly, and I went in there in the industry, and I was welcomed. Honestly, I was just literally welcomed. I had no idea what the politics was like, which sounds like the House of Commons. I went in there naively, just, I want to perform, I want to be funny. That is it. I had no idea what the structure was like. I had no idea who the promoters were. I had no idea who were the high profile. I just wanted to be funny. And then it happened, But I realized that as it happened, as you rise through the ranks, then you start to discover certain things. And I was still naive. Something was just telling me, no, this is great. This is, everybody's your friend. Everybody is your friend in the comedy industry, because look, I'm not, how would I put it? I'm not, I don't want to swear, but I try to be polite to every single person. And I think that's one of many reasons why I was able to get the support that I got in July 2019, when BBC Studios and E4 tried to steal the character off me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
yeah,
know
yeah.
that if I was someone that people didn't get along with, I don't think I would have got that support from the comedy industry. So that it was just fantastic. But I noticed that I've never worked in an industry where I regard it as healthy competition.
Yeah?
I love the idea that, for example, Nabil is doing very well, who happens to be a
Yeah.
friend of mine.
Yeah,
That
superb.
inspires me. I love the fact that there are people who are coming through the ranks and are doing better. I don't get a sense of any jealousy, certainly not from my part. That's not how I deal with I compete with myself rather than compete with other people. But I think what breaks me at times is when I see other comics being so bitter about other people's success, and then that's when the penny drops. That if they're not happy that someone is successful, what they think. So the penny just drops.
Yeah.
That some of this can be quite false. Because I've never worked in the entertainment industry. I had to learn the ropes in terms of showbiz, and there are people who would like you and there are people who wouldn't like you. That's the fact of the matter. But for me, don't let that define you in terms of how you interact with people.
So how then did you cope with that transition from like being in a working environment, as in a day job, to the evening job? So when you first started doing comedy, were you in the job that you're in now?
Yeah, no. I was in a different job, but this for me. Don't forget that subconsciously, this is something I wanted to do right from when I was young. I just never had not that I didn't have the desire, I just didn't know how to go about it. So when it actually happened, it was like I had discovered almost like a box of chocolates for the first time, and I opened it and I tasted it, and I just thought, wow, I can do this, even though some people are not going to get me, and my comedy, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't follow the norm. It's because I've noticed that certain areas of the industry are very dogmatic about how you should do comedy. That's not how my brain works. I want to be different. I want to create something different. I want to create my own utopia. I don't want to be the same person like the others. I just want to be different. So how did I cope? I think, for me, I just genuinely found it as I started by finding it as a hobby. I saw it like a hobby that you enjoy. It's almost like you playing golf, or you going to, you playing football, but it's not professional. That's how I saw it. And I just thought, look, the key thing for me, John, is I still enjoy it. Yeah. I enjoy it. I enjoy the fact that I see people. I've created something that the audiences in the UK enjoy. Okay, not everyone would like it. Not every promoter would like it. And I recognize that. Not everyone in the industry would like it. But actually, if I'm building my audiences and my audiences love what I do, that's good enough for me. Because I'm building my own. I'm building my own industry. If that makes sense. My own utopia.
You're running your own track, is the way I describe it. In your day jobs, then, were you messing about? Were you just happy, cheerful, or?
I was always known as a cheerful person. Actually, I genuinely think performing comedy, because what I do includes public speaking. So even though if people didn't know that I did comedy, I'm able to warm a room up. Yeah, I could go into a room and speak to people confidently and put some humor into it, and I get away with it. But they never knew that I was performing comedy. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But your comedy is very persona based.
And also, one of the things I realized is that when I arrived in this country and as I was rising through the ranks, public speaking was really, really important. So the more I did comedy, the more I became more confident in public speaking, because it just going into a room full of strangers knowing the subject is a transferable skill anywhere else in the industry, in any industry. At times I describe comedians like they are MPs, because they go into a room talking to constituents, and they talk and they make people laugh. Like sometimes they die, whatever it is. Those skills, good communication skills, are transferable in any. Nobody can take that away from me. I know that I've got it, and I know I've built on it, and I know that comedy has helped me build on that. Public speaking and being able to engage with people at any level, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But are you not in a position of responsibility in your?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, how do you reconcile being this funny, wacky? Because if you're like a manager, how am I going to come to you to discipline me when?
But I think, I think it's almost like how do you best describe this? You can't be funny 24/7, can you, John? It's impossible. And
No,
and
that's
it's
right.
yeah, and it's a different environment, isn't it? I'm not David. I'm not trying to be David Brent. Is it David Brent in his office?
Mhm.
I know that there are responsibilities and there are boundaries. So I leave my comedy away from my office. It's that simple, and I know I've got a job to do and I've got to do it and do it well, and that's cool, so, and people take me seriously. It's not like people see me as a, and I think what also helps is the fact that I perform in character rather than as myself. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And
Just
some people found out. They found out videos and they just literally laughed and just said, maybe they think
we
I'm
know
mental.
these
I don't
guys.
know,
We
but
know
yeah.
these men. Let me just, before we go further, just say a quick good evening to Dave Allison, Kevin Beck Harrison, Nick Jones, Steve Troop. Thanks for coming along, guy. Nick Jones, especially, mate. You're so supportive. Thank you. And Steve. For those people who are just joining us, this is Ben Bollo, who is one of the greatest unknown little gems on the comedy circuit. You're going to love him once you get to see him and hear from him. Big mention to our sponsors, the WJ Group, who, as we know, just wouldn't be doing this without them. So thank you to them, the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. So Ben, we're just getting touching on this thing. Why the character then? So why President Obonjo? Tell us what he stands for.
Okay, so this is what happened, and this is literally what happened. Obama came into the scene, and my wife was supporting Hillary Clinton. I was supporting Obama. Obama becomes president, and I just couldn't believe it. It's like she was really, really attracted to Obama. I'm sure she won't mind me saying this. She was Obama this, Obama that, Obama, and I just thought, wow, what's all this? I used to support Obama, but you're the one now supporting Obama.
Yeah, there's
And
a little bit too much liking going on here, love. That's what I would have been
yeah,
saying.
and also she literally bought me 2 books to read: The Audacity of Hope and Dreams of My Father.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought, what is going on here? Not only do you like him, it's as if you want a president in the house.
Yeah.
And then there's a late friend of mine called Abe Fatuga, bless him. You have people who see things in you that you don't see.
Yeah.
And he used to tell me before he died that you're wasted, man. Like, you should be a public speaker. You're too funny. You should do comedy. And I ended up. He gave me the nickname Obonjo. Okay. And at that time I didn't even know that I was going to use it as a stage name. And I ended up. I created President Obonjo because I wanted my wife back. I was just so jealous. I was jealous of the fact that my wife loved Obama. And I just thought, yeah, you want a president in the house? I am going to create a character called President Obonjo. And I did it online. I never, ever intended to perform stand-up comedy. I did it online, and it became very popular within the Nigerian community. At one point, people actually thought that the character was running for presidency in Nigeria, until, like I said, I met this guy who took me to the comedy store, and the rest is history. But I started performing as a civilian president. But then what happened, and certainly this is part of what's happened subconsciously, writing the new show, is the fact that I remember when I was in Nigeria, most of the time I was in Nigeria, I was under dictatorship rule. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was under dictatorship rule, and there was a guy called Babangida. They were all military dictators. And then my have uncles and aunties who are from the military as well. So it was no coincidence that I was driving past a shop in Stevenage. It was an army shop. And don't forget, the whole idea was to try and get my wife back acting like Obama, but it's actually Obonjo. But then Obama started complaining about the Republicans. If you remember, he
Yeah.
had a phrase, "Yes, we can," and then he then said, "Yes, we can," but which was 4 years after. And I just thought, what would Obama do if he was an African president? He will become a military man. What I need is some military gear. So I went into this shop in Stevenage because I used to work in Stevenage at the time, and I wore it and I just posted it on Facebook. And the response was like, "Wow, absolutely wow. We love this." And then I wore it to a gig at downstairs at the King's Head. And at the time, just basically said after I'd done my set, he said, "You found your mojo." I remember him saying that because I'd done several spots there and literally would die, literally die. But this particular one with the uniform, he just said, "You found your mojo." Before I knew what was happening, that's how he took off. I just started performing in uniform. But what irritated me was the fact that people just felt, and I didn't even know until 2019 when this, what's it called? This E4 BBC Studios thing happened, and someone recorded. Someone called Rob Molland recorded a podcast, and he said that when he first met me, and I knew this was happening at the very beginning when I started wearing the uniform and I was performing. They just thought, "What's this crazy mental, stuff? This is just this is not comedy. This is just jokester. This is a clown." I would say I got it absolutely right at the very beginning, but I grew to learn the technique of stand-up comedy or whatever it's called at the time, and it got better, and that's basically it. So it was a case of wanting to have my wife back because she was attracted to Obama, the link with dictatorship in Nigeria, and that's my understanding, and I'm just wanting to create something different.
And then, so we have touched on it, the fact then that this character that you worked so hard on to create with the Lafta Republic and built up a following, and then suddenly this guy, Samson Kayo, I don't know him, but it turns out that they've got this whole idea of starting this show, basically, didn't they? Which they filmed a pilot for, I think.
They did.
I don't know whatever happened to it.
Well, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. My President Obonjo's forces, which included the comedy industry, the comedy industry army, made sure it never happened. It was dropped. And look, all I would say to you is, can you imagine? Comedy is hard, but if you're doing something for 10, 11 years, you find out that there's an announcement made that the sitcom is being made by E4 BBC Studios. You got two choices. Either you fight it or you just give up. There were a number of people who just said, that's it, you're done. That's the end of your career. And you might as well just give it to them. But I just said, flipping heck. I know the sacrifice I have made over the last 11 years. If this is going to kill me, let it kill me. I'm not letting this go. I'm not letting this go in any shape or form. And
And then you stuck to it. We just Steve Troop is desperately keen to see if his language is right. He says Bawani. Does that mean something to you?
Yeah, Bawani says hello. How are you?
Steve Troop getting all up in his people's faces. Steve's a good guy. He's a regular listener.
Cool. So he says Bawani. Yeah, he's done well. He's done well.
He'll want to borrow money off you next. That's the thing, though. So you've alluded to it before. This thing about emotional resilience, which is something that is very, very strong in you. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you found then that this character, this Obonjo character that you've worked on, you're doing so well with, and suddenly they didn't even try and be subtle about it, did they? The whole kind of the show that they developed at BBC, and it was E4, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's BBC Studios and E4. So they made the announcement. I found out on Twitter. I generally don't know.
Did you call it Colonel Banjunki or something? Or Colonel
Yeah. So it wasn't just about and people would say that, look, I don't have the monopoly of an African dictator, and I was reminded by some people that there were sitcoms previously in the past. John Bird had something as a dictator, but hello, there wasn't anyone, and still there isn't anyone who performs a dictator character doing stand up. I think that's the first point. And I went everywhere, and wherever there was a gig, wherever you wanted me, I will be there. Point number two, it wasn't just about the African dictator. What was also very annoying as well is that they took so my middle name is Bankole. Bankole means build a house. Now, Bankole and Banjoko, that's an anagram, isn't it, of my name? That sounds similar. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see how it's, but then I guess that's the problem that comics have, is not just other acts stealing material, but you can get TV producers. And I once sat next to a guy on Tuesday night at the Comedy Store that did something called Cutting Edge, where the guys would come up with topical material. And this guy next to me was making notes, and I said to him, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I've got a radio show on I think BBC Kent."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, not tomorrow, you ain't." And I took the book off him. And then there was a little bit of
let me tell you what happened. So I've written a show called Stolen, which will appear at Leicester Comedy Festival, and it's all about what happened in July 2019. I did a preview of the show at Camden Comedy Club a couple of months back, and guess who was in the audience? Just guess.
The guy, a TV producer?
Someone from BBC.
And did you confront them afterwards?
Yeah, definitely. It's all on tape.
All right. Without getting too much away, I hope that you remember to, as you're hitting him, I hope you have to remember to shout, "Stop hitting me," because people hear better than they see. That's a bit of advice I was given by a policeman when I was about 13. If ever you're in trouble, punch and shout, "Stop hitting me," as you're punching them, even if they're not hitting you back, because all people.
Yeah, I just found it really ridiculous that there was someone there who, and it was a she, and I spoke to her and I said, "Oh, do you know about me?" Yes, I've heard about you. It was just really strange, and that just proved that they could.
Yeah, they've done their research.
Pick up anything from Joe.
Yeah. There's no shame.
Yeah,
no shame. Went back in the day when we used to do the Jongleurs nights, which has recently been revamped but completely differently. That I often remember there'd be acts at the back of the room, one or two in particular, making notes. You know, what are you doing? And when I've worked on the cruise ships, I've seen it. Now people record other people's shows, and there doesn't see, because audiences don't care where you got the jokes from. All they want to do is laugh. But we know that if we write it, craft it, and develop it, that we've invested in it. And I think very much what happened with you was a classic example of all them years of work, like you said, and all the effort and stuff that you put into it. And for what? So someone could just come and take it away. You wouldn't. It's like a carpenter. If you went and took the man's tools, how can he work? And how would they expect you to work? Very, very difficult time. It is all very interesting, though, talking to people like Ben and comedians about how they cope with these kind of setbacks, because these things happen in the workplace, but we're protected. You get protected by copyright rules in writing, and it's very, very difficult. Dave Allison makes a really great point to Ben that he knows that Dave and Ben spoke about it. Dave Allison, very supportive of comedy. And again, another guy is very, very innovative. His the trial show that he does, as well as some of the other stuff, the man has worked for years for nothing, and he's paid comics when he's not got paid himself. And then you collaborate with TV producers, and then what happens? Someone can take your idea. But David's making a very good point then. Is there any regret about not finding a way to collaborate with those TV producers, so that if a TV show does come based on Obonjo, that maybe Ben could benefit from it? And the problem with that is, of course, that the problem with trying to work with TV producers is that they don't care about justice and fairness. They just want to keep their jobs. So they'll quite happily take someone's character and try and do something with it. So I've just been talking about Dave Allison there, Ben.
Yeah. Look, there was so much advice from lots of people, and there were things that happened behind the scenes to try and make it work, but we just couldn't reach an arrangement. Do I have any regrets? I think I genuinely don't. I genuinely think that, I think for me, what was disappointing is they can't say that they didn't know about me. They knew about me. They knew of my work. I'd submitted things to comedy competitions. People knew who I was. Okay, I wasn't signed by anyone, not by a top agency, but if someone said, if you're doing comedy in the UK, you will know about President Obonjo, and that's not
Yeah,
being
you
big
have to. Yeah,
because I'm just out there. So I have no regrets. I think for me, and this is the thing, which is what I say to other comics as well, who especially comics who come into our industry, you've got to have emotional resilience. You have to be independently minded. This could easily break you if you're wanting to be part of the crowd. Because if there's anything, it was clear to me that they didn't want me to do that role, but I was strong enough to recover from that and just get on. And I'm still performing as Obonjo whenever I can for whoever wants to book me, if that makes sense. Because the ultimate for any comedian, and we know that for a fact, is they want to play live for the Apollo, they want to work with the BBC. So when that happened in July 2019, I think that was the key thing for me, that they knew about me, but they just didn't want me, and that's fine. That doesn't define my comedy journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. There's a comic called Stefan Allen. I don't know if you know him. He's a Welsh guy. Do you know who he is?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, I've been kind of watching some of his Twitter stuff, and he made some phenomenal points about tips for other comics to follow.
Yeah.
And one of the big points that really struck me was that he said it's about learning to manage envy.
Yeah.
And because one of the things about this industry is you've got to continually broadcast your success, otherwise no one's going to know what you're doing, right? And if you don't, like the amount of times, even still, people say to me, you should be doing social media more, or you should be doing TV, get on radio, because there's this view that if you're not on television, you're not successful. But it's about how what do we consider to be successful? What does Ben want to get out of comedy over the next few years?
What I want to get out of comedy over the next few years, I have to say to you that I want to continue. Obonjo has built a cult following, so I want to build on that. Obonjo has built an audience, and I want to continue. I want to continue with that. Yes, I'm looking to have a sitcom. I'm looking to go on tour when the time is right. So those things are there that I still want to achieve, and I know I will do it. I'll find a way to do it. It's really important, because it's important for me personally, because that just shows and just the general acceptance. People just need to accept that we're not all going to play. Because there was a recent discussion about Life at the Apollo. Not everyone is going to play Life at the Apollo. Yeah, not everyone is going to be on BBC. Your measure of success should be different. John's measure of success, one of the things I admire about you is how you've taken comedy into the corporate world. That is success. That is success. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has to do it, and doesn't mean that, because I know what people think. People think, yeah, you've got to be doing Life at the Apollo. It might well just be building audiences, running your own independent shows. That is success. And I think that those are the key things that will help you in terms of your well-being and your mental health. When you start comparing yourself with how people are succeeding in comedy, you are going to kill yourself emotionally and physically. You're going to destroy yourself.
It's interesting. Quincy, who is a great comic, he's made a point that as comics we have to look at ourselves as a brand. That's how we copyright our work and all what we do.
Yeah, I admire. You mentioned Quincy. All I remember is his logo. I've never said this to him, but I see his logo all over, and I know that's Quincy's logo. And what's really interesting is, and this is why I say it's transferable skills. Obonjo, as far as I'm concerned, is a brand. It is a brand out there. There are Obonjoists. There are people who, and I know because I worked in the corporate world, that's why I know that you've got to have a brand. But it's unheard of. I remember reading stuff about Jimmy Carr, who said you've got to treat this like a business.
Yeah.
And some people are offended by that comment, like you've got to treat it as a business. But hello, how many people are going to be accepted by the gatekeepers of the industry? Not many, just a few. If you don't fit in What else do you need to do? You're going to have to run your own show, and that's
You
basically
got to, yeah, you got to find your own field, right? Now,
yeah.
I mean, I had managers over the years who would say, "Look, if you do this and that, we'll get you on the telly." My
Mm,
thing was, I don't want to be on the telly. That's not my measure of success, all right?
mm,
And even now, I get very often people come up to me after gigs saying, "Man, why aren't you doing 8 out of 10 cats or mock the week?" And they can't see beyond that.
yeah.
And it's about then how do we use our comedy? And this is a fact that I will argue to my dying day. I've had this argument many times with white comedians, right? In my experience, the black comedians tend to be much more proactive in representing and trying to support their communities and to
Mhm,
try to elevate. It may not be like that when you're in the mix, but from what I see from the outside, like
mm,
we just mentioned Quincy,
mhm,
Curtis,
mhm,
Rudy.
mm,
There's loads. Even what Mo Gilligan's doing at the moment. They're
mm,
very aware of the fact that we can use this as a platform to help
mhm,
comedians per se,
yeah,
but also our specific communities, right?
yeah, yeah.
And when I see people then diluting that, like the BBC coming in, well, we've got this African dictator, well, let's make our own one. Well, where's the loyalty between Samson or his writers with
Mm,
yourself? And it's about how we don't help each other.
yeah, yeah.
We
I think,
just pull each other down.
yeah, and I think the irony of it was the fact they had two black people, because he's not a comedian; he's a comedy actor.
Yeah, it's coming actor.
Two
Yeah,
black people fighting for crumbs, if that makes sense. From
yeah,
yeah, exactly. Whereas there was a real opportunity to find ways to make
yeah,
those two dictators work. But that's the past anyway, because But the beauty of it, when we talk about success, and it's really interesting. This whole idea of self promotion and the fact that you can be joyful about what you've achieved, and people will still see that as bragging, or would see that as uh, you're delusional about your success. But
yeah.
what's wrong in actually promote? Because if there isn't anyone else promoting you, if you don't shout about your own successes, who else will do that for you? No one else. And actually, I find people who haven't got agents and who are actually striving to do things themselves. I admire them more actually, because it's such a very lonely, tiresome, but fulfilling journey when you do it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, whatever happens to me now, John, as far as I'm concerned, it's really interesting. There are times when there are jokes been stolen. People will quote what happened in July 2019. Is that not success? Oh, they're trying to do
Yeah,
an Obonjo on you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So whatever happens, I don't know how long, but my view is that they will never ever forget what happened in July 29th. It's now part of comedy history. People
But you
remember it.
see, that would have broken many comics, would have just been broken by that, right? But your emotional resilience that you mentioned very early on in our conversation, you talk about the upheaval you had up to age 5, growing up in
Mm,
Liverpool, getting
mm,
taken to another country, another
yeah,
culture,
yeah,
another weather condition,
yeah,
right? Then coming back again, then trying to be friendly with your neighbors. It's that kind of
mm.
where do you make your roots? You make your roots. You've got your missus who then you're taking inspiration from her, although
Mm.
it's lust rather than humor. You get your character taken from you. What is it that keeps Ben going? What keeps you kind of resilient? What's your tip that you can maybe share to help other people?
I think you just need to remember. You always need to remember that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. That has always been my approach. We will always have setbacks. We will always have things that we want to try and achieve. But always remember the good times. Remember the things that you've been able to achieve that are positive. It's almost like, for example, I used to talk to quite a number of comics who, for example, one minute they do very well, and then they go to a gig and they do very badly, and they allow that bad gig to shape, their views of where they're going with their comedy. But actually, if you remember, and that's my approach, always remember the good times. Remember the things that you did very, very well, because you will need to go back to that when the times of darkness is upon us. Very, very
Yeah,
important.
yeah, no,
Setbacks.
that is quite a spiritual way of looking at it as well.
Yeah, because that's the way I look at it. I just look at it. Look, whatever it is, when that was happening in July 2019, I knew, based on what's happened in the past in other parts of my life, that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Key thing is, don't give up. See it as a positive. And that's what I did. And that's what you need to do. Remember the good times. Always. Even when the pandemic started and the gigs dried up, the way I dealt with the positivity of it was just remembering Edinburgh 2019 in August, and how people were talking to me on a regular basis about what happened, wanted to talk to me about the whole E4 and BBC Studio stuff. I know it was just 5 minutes of fame, but hello, geez. From a local pub, when I started local pub in Luton, where nobody understood me, to hitting the Times newspaper, the Daily Mail, the Daily Mirror, without having an agent. It just goes to show what you can do as a human being. And everybody can do it. You just need to believe in yourself. The other thing I was going to say, John, is, and this is very controversial, I genuinely think that you shouldn't really do comedy until you've sorted out your well-being and your mental health. Because if your well-being is not right, if your mental health is not right, it will break you. And this is a tough industry. And people forget the comedy courses that people do. That is what they should be teaching people. What is your state of your mental health? What is the state of your well-being before you go on a comedy course? Do an assessment of that person, not just take the money. I've seen people broken as a result of setbacks. And that, because of the sort of person I am, I just feel really, I empathize with it. But because of my setbacks in the past, that has got nothing to do with comedy, that has strengthened me. So I hope that helps people along the way. You really need to think about your setbacks, light at the end of the tunnel. It's just like the pandemic. Yeah, we still have Omicron, but where we are now is not where we were last year. And I'm sure next year is going to be really more positive. That's the way people should look at it. If you're looking at it from a negative point of view, it will break you. The number of people who are saying to me, give up this character, give it to the BBC, you're finished. That's the end of it. I am still standing. Okay, I'm not working with the BBC, but I am still standing. I'm still standing.
That's when the new character comic was built.
I
could talk to you for hours, my friend, but our hour is up.
I'm sorry. I've spoken too much.
No, not at all, man. Not at all. But what I'd love you to do is to make sure that you keep me updated with your shows and that. Stick them on my Facebook page, because people will want to come and see you. It's been absolutely inspiring talking to you, my friend. You take care and stay safe, yeah?
Thank you very much. And the internet worked.
We did it, man. We did it. That little link through Lagos, that's what made it work, man.
Oh, thank you.
So that was Benjamin Bello, just an amazing guy, very kind, very caring, very upbeat, with some amazing little tips there. And as you know, when you listen every week, or if you listen regularly, we're always trying to get our guests to give us some of their top tips and things that work for them. What we've got to remember is that we're not clinicians, we're not practitioners. We're just guys and girls who and people who define themselves as guys and girls. Don't even start me on that. You know what I'm trying to say is that, look, everyone's got their own little ways that make things work and get us through the day. If you know someone who's in trouble or struggling, just reach out to them, put your hand out and help, okay? Because you may be in a good place, they're not. And just by showing an interest or taking an interest, you can be the difference. Please do keep tuning into us every Monday night at 7 p.m. And for our pre-records, and we do them sporadically throughout the week. Have a listen to all the shows on the men's radio station and the women's radio station. Give us a like on social media, because that sort of stuff is all important, really. I don't know why. Don't get it myself. I'm still from the old school, and where we just put a box up outside your front door, stand up on it, and start chatting. Stay safe, and just remember that you are not on your own. Thanks for being part of the Reading the Signs family. See you next week. Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. talking with comedians about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible. It's great to be part of the mensradiostation.com family, so do check us out on the website, on social media. We'll be back next Monday. You take care. Stay safe, everybody.